A king washes feet. How to love and forgive your friends and enemies. An illustrated Bible study by Jessica Claiborne. Very, very good book. This is called Performance. It says, Judas heard it all. Judas heard all his sermons. Judas saw all the miracles. Judas prayed and saw people healed through his very own hands, but hadn't given Jesus his heart. You can go to church, read the Bible, sing the worship songs, have your feet washed, operate in the spiritual gifts, preach the house down, respond to the altar call, tell him you're loyal, kiss his cheek, and still not give him your heart. Tell me that ain't true. Now it says, performance and the heart. Performance without intimacy will create resentment. In Luke 18, Jesus tells the parable of a Pharisee and a tax collector. In the story, the two men both perform the same action, praying to God at the temple. But Jesus said only one of the men was justified through prayer. Why? Tell me why. It says, two men went up into the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself, God, I thank thee that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week, I give tithes of all that I get. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even lift up his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. And then there's a little note. Performance, not the word. Comparison robbed him of relationship with God. Luke 18:10 to 14. Was honest with God, saw his need for God, right? So the comparison, like the Pharisee compared himself, and the tax collector was honest with God, and he saw his need for God, right? The tax collector and the Pharisee both performed the same action, prayer, but the heart posture behind the prayer was what mattered to the Lord. The Pharisee made the right action in the legal sense. He had done all the right things, but it was the tax collector who came before the Lord with a heart of humility in his prayer. The prophet Hosea wrote from God's heart, For I desire mercy, not sacrifice, an acknowledgement of God rather than burnt offerings. Hosea 6:6. And Jesus repeated the passage to the Pharisees, Matthew 12:7. It was clear that the right actions, even fulfilling the law perfectly, were no longer enough. God wanted more. God wanted the hearts behind the action. During the famous Matthew 5 Sermon on the Mount, Jesus makes it clear that while the old covenant was about actions, the new covenant is about heart posture. Under the old covenant, it was sufficient to technically keep your marriage covenant vows through your actions. But Jesus introduces a new standard, one where even the heart matters. You have heard it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Matthew 5:27-28. Judas's performance was perfect because none of the disciples suspected that Judas was the betrayer in their midst. We can conclude that Judas's actions were perfect to the outside eye, right? Sorry, the light. None of the other 11 men who lived and ministered in close proximity with Judas thought it was possible that he was the betrayer, even as it unfolded in front of their eyes. Judas must have spoken, acted, and performed miracles like a true disciple. His actions must have made it appear that that he truly loved Jesus. There was no indication that he didn't belong with the followers of Jesus. He had all of the action and none of the heart. Mary's alabaster jar poured out was simply the catalyst in ending the disconnect between his actions and his heart posture. Performance can look many different ways in our life today. It can look like attending church because it's a part of your culture or what your family expects. It can look like praying not out of love but out of fear of being judged. It can look like being a Christian in public but in private struggling with sexual sin and leading a double life. Am I performing in any area of my life? Is there a disconnect between my heart and actions? Am I the only, or excuse me, am I only doing religious things to avoid punishment or judgment? Performance is exhausting. There's only so long that you can play a part before cracks are revealed, mistakes are made, and bitterness sets in. There's so much to this. There's 6 minutes. Okay, let me see. Okay. A heart that is performing actions without authentic love will lead to intimacy without commitment. So painful. His betrayer had given them a sign. The one I kiss, he's the one. Arrest him. So he went right up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. "Friend," Jesus asked him, "why have you come?" Matthew 26:48-50. He gives us so many chances to return to him without fear. He called him friend. Like, that's crazy. He called him friend. Even though he knew right there in the moment he was getting betrayed by him. Wow. Judas's betrayal sign of a greeting kiss on the cheek was an illustration of intimacy without commitment. Jesus, help me to match my level of commitment to my level of intimacy with you. I never want to kiss your cheek and betray you at the same time. Bro, like, what? Like, mind blown. Performance versus discipline. So what about the moments when you don't feel like apologizing or forgiving? What about going to church or singing in worship when you don't feel it? Is it performance, empty actions without a correct heart posture? We already talked about love being a choice, not a feeling. Is washing feet inauthentic if we choose to do it but don't have a feeling in our heart of wanting to do it? There are times when we aren't going to feel the heart behind our actions. This doesn't make them disingenuous. It can be a form of discipline. It can be using our actions in mind to tell our heart to get in line. Empty actions are usually motivated by a desire to be approved by others, a fear of being found out, or a need to earn approval from God. This is different from choosing to do what is right and good, even when you don't feel the motivation to do it. I don't feel like opening my Bible each day, but I do it because I know that it is good for me, regardless of whether I feel like it at the time. I don't feel like forgiving someone after they've wounded me and are apologizing, but I choose to do it because I know unforgiveness and bitterness will make me sick, and go against what Jesus asked me to do. There will be times when you don't feel like washing feet, times when you would rather yell in frustration than extend grace, times when someone has turned back to addiction and now wants to sit down on the seat again, and you don't really have the patience to meet them with the same loving response for the 5th time. You can still choose to wash feet even if you don't feel like it. Maybe there was a hesitation or grief in Jesus' heart that he chose to overcome when he washed the disciples' feet too. May the Lord help us all, guide us, and teach us how to be better. In Jesus' name. I love y'all. God bless.